Peace, peace, family. Just one moment here. I was going to let the music play, but I think that it will be a lot better audibly for me to turn the music down. Welcome to Circuit's Coven. Tonight, we are going to continue our journey with Utterly Wicked. So I've been randomly picking out some excerpts from this wonderful book. It's written by Dorothy Morrison, but it focuses on more of the mental aspects and questions one should propose to themselves in a reasoning sort of manner before you delve into hexes, curses, and other unsavory notions. So, tonight we're going to talk about, the topic is, whose curse is worse? And so, delve with me as I read this chapter. I will be stopping in between to do some sidebars and adding some of my own thoughts and observations on the journey. So let me grab my water, get my reading voice together, and I'm going to attempt to not have to use my glasses unless my eyes get tired. But I'm hoping that the sound is good, and let me just move closer. I'll be stopping in between to take some tea breaks because my voice might get raspy and a little tired. But let us begin. Contrary to what some folks may think, the Afro-Caribbean people and their descendants neither single-handedly hold the monopoly on great curses, nor did they invent the pin-struck poppet for which they are so famous. The roots of the poppet, in fact, go all the way back to ancient Egyptians. Instead of being made of cloth, wood, and plant materials, though the figure was cast of wax and designed to closely resemble the subject in question, How precisely they came up with using wax is anyone's guess, but the implications certainly speak for themselves. It was easily poked with pins to cause pain, bent and distorted, to damage the body, and of course, melted away to cause a slow and painful death. But that wasn't the only form by which the Egyptians exacted revenge. They also understood that the power of words lived on long after the scribe who wrote them or the person who uttered them. And although no actual artifact or photograph exists as proof, it's been said that such a curse inscribed on clay tablets found in the antechamber of Tutankhamun's tomb was responsible for the many deaths surrounding its excavation. So what did this purposed inscription say? Death will slay with its wings whoever disturbs the peace of the Pharaoh. One inscription read. And whether any such inscription truly existed or not, it appears that death took notice anyway and did just that. Then there were the ancient Romans and Greeks, and as one might expect from people who went to so much trouble to perfect a vast array of protection talismans, they also had their hands in the cauldron of torment. And all the way up to their elbows did they have it. Their curses involved tablets made of metal, though, which were inscribed with instructions to the gods of the underworld before depositing them in a place appropriate to the intention. As an extra boon, metals sacred to specific underworld deities were often used to entice them to lend their services. Lead was an extremely popular medium for several reasons. And while I feel that its associations with Saturn, the underworld, and revenge were definitely considerations, the fact that it was easily obtainable, inexpensive, long-lasting, and easy to carve must have also figured heavily into the choice. And while it's doubtful that the ancient Greeks and Romans actually knew that lead was toxic, I can't think of any better medium upon which to craft a curse than on something inherently poisonous. Can you? Yes, so one quick sidebar. What we're talking about in this section is different cultures and their forms of whether they do hexes, curses, and like we say, other unsavory notions. But what Dorothy Morrison is saying is that some of the most, what is the exact word she used? The Egyptians were the creators of the roots of the poppet. The roots of the poppet, which is a small doll type figurine that's usually made of cloth and stuffed with herbs, cotton, whatever it is that the person chooses to stuff it with. But it is made in an image of a person, like a little puppet type thing. This originated in Egypt along with most of magical practices, period. And so what this is talking about is for the different cultures, how they implemented and their potency and their effectiveness. And the ancient Egyptians chose, they did a lot of molding things out of clay, wax, metals. One of the popular is iron, before anyone knew it was toxic, but it was used effectively. Okay, so let me grab a sip and then we will continue. Of course, I decided to share and started to read this on my podcast because I found the book utterly wicked and interesting, but it sparks my intellect, and I gather anyone else who reads it, it sparks their intellect into the reasoning behind um, why certain practices are performed. Okay, so where was I? The intentions of these cursed tablets covered much the same sorts of subject matter that interest us today: litigation, justice, business, competition, and matters of the heart. But the manners in which they were delivered to the gods of the underworld, interesting to say the least. While occasionally buried on the property of the person targeted, the location of a sporting competition or the courthouse, they were most often tossed into pools of stagnant water, the equivalent of today's sewers, or buried in the right hand of a corpse to gain its assistance. The underlying thought with employing the latter was that the corpse would be really annoyed at having been disturbed. See the name on the tablet, and not only carry out the torment listed, but add a bit of its own. The ancient Celts had their own system of curse delivery as well. While they were almost always spoken, or at least accompanied by an incantation spoken in the verse, there was something else that set their system apart from the others. You see, they believed that to curse someone took extreme amounts of concentration. So to that end, they often employed some measure of physical difficulty, standing on one foot with one eye closed, or perhaps pointing at the victim during delivery as a way of keeping their minds on their business. Of course, I'm sure that this also scared the hell out of their victims, and instilling that sort of fear is bound to have produced a double whammy. That brings us to the Italian practitioners. While most of us associate them solely with the use of Malaccio or the evil eye, the strength of their curses is much more involved than that. Instead, it lies in subtle gesture and action, in the stirring of a soup, in the washing of the hands, and today, perhaps, even in the shredding of an email. But that's not all. They also have a knack for incorporating the most innocuous of objects. Who, after all, would have ever imagined that all those dreadful nightmares, the ones that make you afraid to even close your eyes at night, would be coming directly from your favorite pillow? Some of the best Italian curses I've ever witnessed, in fact, were so cleverly placed that no one even saw them coming. And it's that sort of sly delivery that makes them so very powerful. As an aside, I'd be negligent if I failed to point out that the early Christians, most specifically those who authored the Bible, were no strangers to the world of curses either. And according to them, God himself tossed out the very first when he expelled a legion of angels from heaven and cast them into a fiery pit of his own creation. After that, though, it seems that he really got the hang of it when he evicted Adam and Eve and their buddy the snake from the Garden of Eden. Example, other side effects were added. The menstrual period and the labor pains of childbirth were born, as was the dogma of original sin and the purgatory that went with it. And that was just the beginning. Cain was cursed for killing Abel. The Babylonians were cursed for building the Tower of Babel. Lot's wife was cursed and turned into salt. The world was cursed and destroyed by a flood. And on and on and on and on. So even if the early Christians weren't actually adept at flinging curses, there was. And because of that, it's no surprise that many of today's curses come directly from and or utilize passages from the Bible. Of course, there are literally hundreds of other magical systems that employ the use of hexes, curses, and other unsavory notions, but there's simply not space here to go into all of them. So, do a bit of research, borrow ideas, and incorporate those newly discovered tidbits into spells and rituals of your own. That is, after all, what truly powerful magic is all about. The end, my darlings. Until next time. Whose curse is worse? What do you think? I actually resonate more with the ancient Egyptian systems, and I find them very powerful and effective. And so, with such responsibility comes great reasoning within oneself before they make the decisions to do the utterly wicked things that they do. And also, I thought it was a great highlight that it points out that most books that are considered scriptures and holy books, they are all filled with their own forms of hexes, curses, and other unsavory notions. And so I bestow upon all to perfect breaking news. You create most of your reality, and the rest of the time is spent regulating others from trying to create your reality for you. And so, Saket's Coven will leave you with an affirmation. I must rule my destiny. Good evening from Saket's Coven. Until the next time, consider the consequences before you become utterly wicked. Bye bye now. I'm actually a Scorpio, and so my name is Serket, and that would be the Scorpion. Bye bye now.